Alright, so what's up everybody? So, topic of this video is pretty simple. Should you really be getting an adventure bike, more or less? So, I've got a couple clips of me doing a hill climb. I just did it on the XT, and last weekend, or the weekend before, I can't remember, I did it on my Yamaha Tenere 700. So, it's not really should you be getting an adventure bike. The topic is more how you should be honest with yourself if you're in the market for a bike, with which bike you should be getting. So for example, I'll roll the clips as I'm talking here, but the T7, fantastic adventure bike. You can't deny how much harder this hill climb is on the T7, and yes, that comes down to talent. It's not the bike's fault. The point being, if you're in the market and you're seeing, you know, these professional riders like Pole on a T7, or Tony Boo on an Africa Twin, or you know, whoever and whatever bike, it's easy to get sucked into thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get me that bike, that's the one I like, and look at how capable it is, I'm gonna get it and do that type of riding. And I feel like, you know, we saw it happen years ago on a pretty grand scale with the BMW GS. Okay, there's a ton of GS adventures. You know, the big one, the 1150, the 1200, the 1250. Now they're 1300 or 1350, I don't even know. But because of long way round and or long way down. So, you know, there's a ton of people that inspired them, and they thought that's the bike they needed because that's the bike that was used by Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman, and then they've never taken it off-road because they don't have the skills for it. The bike's too heavy. You know, a plethora of reasons could be applied. So the point with this clip, or these two clips back to back on the same hill here, is just so you can see, you know, same rider, same hill. Yeah, it's a different weekend. The hill was a little smoother this weekend on the XT, if I'm being honest. However, same bike, or same rider, same skill level, and you can see how much easier it is on the little XT. Now, obviously, it's, you know, no duh, it's going to be easier. It's a 230-pound bike, but that's the point of the video. You need to really be honest with yourself about what you're going to be using the bike for. You know, are you really going to try to be doing adventures that involve some interstate travel or super high speeds, meaning you're going to need a bigger bike that's more comfortable and capable at those speeds when you have to do them? Do you think you're going to also use it double duty for single track? Like, all these things play in, and you need to be really honest about whether or not you're even capable of that. I'm not capable of riding my T7 on single track. It's not ever going to happen. I'm never going to try it. Hopefully I'm never in a situation where that's the only way out and I have no other choice, because I'm probably going to drop it a couple times, bang it up. You know, I feel like people, you know, you see a lot of adventure bikes on Facebook Marketplace that have like 1,000 miles on them. And a lot of times people just claim like, yeah, I don't have time to ride like I thought I would, so that's the reason I'm selling it. And that may be true for X amount percent of them, but it's not going to be true for everybody. Somebody out there has put themselves in this situation where it's easy to get suckered into. They see how these bikes are ridden by the pros, or the more skilled riders, we'll just say, and they think, well, I can do that if I had that bike, and that bike checks all my other boxes, so that's the bike I'll get. And then the first time they get it off-road, or before they even get it off-road, they realize like, they're never going to be able to ride it like that, for whatever reason, you know, skill, age, not strong enough to pick it back up, or, you know, too short to be riding something that tall off-road, you know, whatever the reason. So, again, I just think everyone should be honest with themselves. You know, there's a ton of bikes that would probably fit the bill for most people who own an adventure bike. You know, not something necessarily as small as an XT225 perhaps, but, you know, KLX 300 or KTM 350 or 500 Dual Sport. Or maybe you're in the market for a T7, but you're convinced you're going to use it for, at the very least, double track and dirt road exploring, and you occasionally need to be able to run 75 miles an hour for, you know, 10 miles at a time or something. KTM 690, Husqvarna 701, lighter than a T7, still got about the same amount of power. I mean, you just really need to be honest. Because, for example, if I had lied to myself and been like, well, if I get a T7, I'll be able to take it up to West Point and still ride all the trails and everything, I mean, I would have just been blatantly lying to myself. It's not doable. I can come up here and I can hit some of the trails. I can climb some of the hills. You know, that's not a huge issue to get this one or that one. But to come out here and spend a whole day nearly riding, no way. Not unless I'm just going to be riding all the main dirt roads and hitting a couple of the easiest 2-track trails. There. 2, 3. You know, it's just not, it's not realistic. And I feel like, you know, a lot of people run into that with like the KLR. You know, I had a KLR for 4 years, and I feel like there's a lot of people that see a KLR and they think, yeah, I could trail ride that, and it's got a little wind protection, so I can still go out and do a long day in the saddle. It's got a huge tank, and man, when you get them off road, they're pigs. That doesn't mean that someone can't rip on one off road. There's plenty of talented people that can. But Joe Blow, average guy, if they're looking at a KLR and they're thinking they're going to do a decent amount of off-road riding with it, chances are they'd be better off with a DR650. You know, it's not going to be as comfortable out of the box on the road. Go +1 on the front sprocket and add some kind of little windscreen like I had on my DR650, and it's on par. Like, it's not a lot of effort or a lot of money to make up its shortcomings compared to the KLR. But I mean, a KLR, the new ones, weigh 500 pounds, and I think, don't quote me on this, but a DR weighs like 410 or something, and is a little, on paper it may not be a shorter seat height, but it's a narrower seat, so effectively it's easier to get your feet down. A lot of deer out this morning, so I've went and ridden my DR650 in Bankhead National Forest on the off-road vehicle trail systems, like a 15-mile trail loop, and a buddy of mine rode with me that day on a KTM 690. We did fine. Had I been on my KLR, I can think of 3 or 4 spots that may have potentially been a much bigger, they would have at the very least been a bigger deal. And at the most, I might have dropped the bike or have required help getting through that section or that obstacle. And the DR did it fine. And it didn't do it on, you know, super aggressive off-road only dirt bike tires. It's just like cheap Shinko 50/50 tires, and send it. And no issues whatsoever. So, And I feel like now I'm saying that a DR is even lighter than that. I don't know. But I mean, there's a ton of options. There's a ton of options. If you're a bigger guy, some of these options don't make sense. Like if you weigh 250, a KLX 300's, I mean, it's probably not going to satisfy you. If you're really tall and heavy, and you're looking at a DR 650, and you're thinking, well, I got to throw a bunch of money at the suspension, just rack the bill up, I might as well buy an adventure bike. You know, maybe look at the Honda XR 650L. It's taller. I think out of everything I've mentioned, it's the tallest bike. 37 or 38 inch seat height. So just be honest with yourself. And another thing I haven't even mentioned that plays a big factor into this, it's played a factor with me before, is nice, new, and shiny. I bought a Versys 650 to replace a KLR 650, and then ended up keeping the KLR and selling the Versys. I told myself, you know, I'm just using it for dirt roads and stuff. I'll put some ADV, you know, like 70/30 tires on it, and it'll be fine on gravel roads. And I know there's a ton of people out there that do it, but I was not comfortable with that thing on gravel roads. And half of that was the fact that I'd bought it brand new, and it's pre-COVID. I was out the door for like $6,800, I think. Wasn't the LT model with the hard cases, just as a base Versys 650. But I'm like, it's so much worse. Not terrible, but I mean for comparison reasons. Compared to the KLR, it's so much worse on a dirt road that I just know I'm probably eventually going to end up putting it down. And I didn't want to do that because I'd spent money on it and it was nice. It didn't have a scratch on it. I wanted to keep it that way. And my KLR was that way as far as, you know, I never dropped it or laid it down the entire 20,000 miles I owned it. So it was nice and scratch free. You know, at least cosmetically around the tank stuff. The underside, not so much from riding it off-road. But you get the point. You go out and spend 20 grand or more on the latest KTM 1290, BMW GS Adventure, whatever. And then when it comes time to take it off-road or even just down gravel roads, you're like, man, I spent too much money on this thing to be risking it this way. Maybe two bikes would be better for you. You know, in my situation, I'm like, I have to have something a little bigger because my wife likes to ride on the back. Two bikes. $2,000 old 20-year-old Deal Sport and the, you know, newer, nicer adventure bike T7. But and that helps because if I want to ride single track, grab the XT, go ride single track. I'm not worried about my skills or the T7 getting damaged because I'm not capable of riding it that way. So I just feel like that's something that a lot of people, I don't want to say overlook, but they oversell themselves on either how they're going to use the bike or they oversell themselves on their skills and abilities a little bit. I mean, none of us like to admit that we, you know, can't do something. But I'll be the first one to tell you, you're not going to see me riding a Tenere 700 on single track. Like I said, not unless I get put in a situation where that's like the only way out, and you know, it's just not going to happen. Not for me. For a lot of people out there, not a problem. You're 6'2". You know, you've been riding maybe longer than I have, or you're just better than me regardless how long you've been riding. It may not be a problem for you. For 5'7" me, it's just realistically not a great option. So anyway, I'm going to end the video here. Let me know what you think in the comments section. And also just, you know, like I said, be honest with yourself. What are you actually going to be using the bike for? You really think you're going to be going out and doing this crazy stuff on this big adventure bike. And again, like I said, some people capable of it. More power to them. The majority, not capable of it. So, you know, with all of that in mind, you know, just be honest with yourself about how you are capable of actually riding the bike versus what you're being sold the bike can do, you know, type situation. And I think that'd probably save people a lot of money and a little bit of heartache, you know. So anyway, with that, we'll just end this video here. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. Is this something you've been suckered into? With all the hype around the adventure bikes and everything, and how capable they are off-road. 80-20 rule is always in effect. Never forget that. It's not the bike, it's the rider. 80% all the time. So we'll catch you on the next one.